Today we will conduct a very tough test of knives from different price ranges.
Let's get acquainted with the knives we will be testing today. We have the legendary Victorinox knife, made in Switzerland, costing 5,000 rubles.
Just perfectly cuts paper.
The most expensive knife in today's test is made of Damascus steel, costing 8,000 rubles.
Cuts paper just perfectly, no worse than this Swiss knife. A ceramic knife costing 2,000 rubles. Ceramic is distinguished by being significantly harder than any brand of steel. It also cuts paper very well, but maybe just a little worse than the previous two knives.
A knife made in the era of an ancient civilization, of Soviet production.
Unfortunately, this knife is no longer new and it doesn't have the factory sharpening. It has been resharpened and not by me. It cuts paper, well, it cuts paper poorly.
And the cheapest knife in our test, costing 150 rubles, bought at the Three Prices store.
Even though this knife is brand new, it doesn't cut paper any better than the Soviet one, maybe even worse. The blade thickness of all the knives is approximately the same, about 2 millimeters. So what exactly are we going to do with these knives today?
Today, we will not be cutting ropes or carving wood with them as knives are usually tested. Today, we will be cutting one knife with another knife.
For this, we have these two devices where the knives can be firmly fixed, and with the help of a hydraulic press, we can send one knife towards the other under pressure. We'll check what damage the cheap knife will receive in contact with the expensive knives, and at the same time, we'll check what damage the expensive knives will receive. So, the first test, the cheapest knife for 150 rubles will cut into a Swiss knife, costing 5,000 rubles. In all tests, we will try to apply the same force up to 500 kilograms. Today's test will show how knives get damaged in a knife fight, as if the blade of one sword cuts into the blade of another sword.
Only we will have kitchen knives instead of swords.
Upon contact with the cheap knife, the Chinese knife received visually approximately the same damage. Now let's see how the Damascus steel knife for 8,000 rubles will perform. Dans sobre cima. but the knife made of Damascus steel performed well. There is a notch on it too, of course, but it is significantly smaller than on the cheap knife.
Now it's the ceramic knife's turn. How will the ceramic behave upon contact with steel?
Despite its high hardness, ceramics are very brittle.
And now it's the Soviet knife's turn to face the cheap knife. The Soviet knife received not very serious damage. Let's look at all these knives together. Among the steel knives, the Swiss one received the most serious damage. The Damascus steel knife turned out to be the strongest.
Well, the ceramic one completely fell apart.
And these are the nicks that the cheapest knife received. Since the Soviet knife and the most expensive Damascus steel knife remain the most intact, we will now compare them. We will apply a force here not of 500 kilograms, but more. Ukota ja jinyak ji.
It's not quite clear right now which knife received more damage. We need to somehow differentiate them.
Well, after all, the most expensive knife made of Damascus steel received more damage than the Soviet one. The fact is that despite the significantly greater hardness of Damascus steel, the blade of this knife is ground at a smaller angle to the cutting edge. Therefore, despite the fact that the blade thickness at the spine seems to be the same, the cutting edge of the Damascus knife is significantly thinner. Thanks to this, it cuts paper much better. Write in the comments what objects you would like to test for strength under a hydraulic press. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.